Hi, this is Joe again with another movie review. And like I promised earlier, I started on my last video, and I'm going to be discussing all 6 of the Star Wars films. And in my last video, I discussed episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now I'm going to be discussing the sequel to the prequel, and that is, of course, the 2002 film, episode 2, Attack of the Clones, which of course is the only Star Wars, like I mentioned in my Spider-Man series review. This is the only Star Wars film that didn't, and it wasn't the number 1 box office draw in during the year that it came out in 2002, because Spider-Man 1 beat this out. And this movie, for some reason, this one was the most criticized of the Star Wars films in 2002. And I mean, I can understand, the criticism. People didn't like the love story, and they also didn't like the fact that Jake Lloyd, who originally played Anakin Skywalker in Episode 1, was replaced by Hayden Christensen, because this movie is supposed to take place 10 years after the events in Episode 1. So instead of waiting 10 years for Jake Lloyd to age 10 years, like they do, like what they do in the soap operas, the few soap operas that left on television, they hired an older actor, and so they went with Hayden Christensen, who was kind of like almost like a James Dean type. I mean, the way he played the part, and sometimes the way he looked and the expression on his face was almost kind of like James Dean. And like I said, with this story, in 2002, and of course the movie started off with the fact with an assassination attempt on now Senator Amidala, because I guess that she downgraded her job because in Naboo the queens are elected. It's not like in London, but it passes from father to son, like in London with the royal family. In Naboo, they're elected queens or kings, on Naboo. So she got asked to become a senator. So she was coming back to Coruscant, was supposed to be the capital of the Republic, to vote on the Army of the Republic, because there were several star systems that were going to be separate, wanted to separate from the Republic. And of course, and the Senate wants to have an army, to fight the separatists, because they're going to convince more star systems to break off the one little republic. And so Senator Amidala came back and said, we don't need an army, so we're doing it more of a peaceful way, and then the Jedi settled this. Well, the Jedi, there's only like a limited number of Jedis to go around. And this is the issue with that the many Jedis to go around to handle this whole thing, or to fight a war, because there's only a certain number of Jedi to do it. You need more people to do it. So they're considering to have this army, and of course Senator Amidala comes back and to vote on it, and somebody tried to kill her. And of course we know, I don't want to give it away, but we do find out who wants to kill her, and that's of course the spoiler. The guys from the Trade Federation who was in the first film wanted to kill her, and they were the leaders of the separatist movement, because supposedly they got stiffed by Lord Sidious. The Lord Sidious character. They got stiffed after what happened in the previous film. So of course she comes back, and actually of course she's under protection of the Jedi. And so the Chancellor, who is now Chancellor Palpatine, he maneuvered Terrence Stamp out in the first film. On Episode 1, he maneuvered Terrence Stamp out of being the Chancellor, so now he's the Chancellor now. And he said, when will you be the Jedi? I said, yeah, but be under the protection of the Jedi. Yeah, that's okay. So they brought back Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was now 10 years older, and now you can see him with a beard. He grew a beard to more look like Alec Guinness from the original trilogy. And of course now you have Hayden Christensen. So of course, I think the first obvious line that you have with Natalie Portman saying to Anakin, "Boy, Anakin, you grow." Not only has he grown, he's a whole completely different actor. So that's one of the, one of the criticisms of the film. It says that's 3 years later, not 10 years later. So it's one of the criticisms of it. And of course, like I said in my previous review for episode 1, they downgraded Jar Jar Binks's, George Lucas did. He downgraded Jar Jar Binks's role in this film because he would have a much bigger role. But since he got so much hate mail and the websites killed Jar Jar Binks, Jar Jar Binks must die.com and all that type of thing. So they downgraded his part for episode 2. And then of course they eventually separated everyone and Anakin because the Jedi Council ordered Anakin to protect the Senate Amidala, and they said Obi-Wan to investigate who's trying to kill her. And of course they found out, and Obi-Wan eventually finds out who's trying to kill her through this whole mystery thing, through this whole Sherlock Holmes investigation thing through the movie, which kind of drags a little bit instead of being a little bit faster. Faster investigation. George Lucas dragged the whole thing out. Well, as Anakin is trying to protect him, and of course throughout the whole film, you see Natalie Portman wearing these beautiful dresses and these beautiful outfits throughout the whole movie. And you see her in a backless outfit, and you see her in this tight corset, and it's really, trying to to sex her up because now she's over 18. She was about I think 20 years old by the time the movie came out, and she's going to be like 21 like a month later. So she's now over 18. So they're trying to sex her up anymore, more than she is. And of course, horny young guys would see us. Wow, look at Natalie Portman. And trying to distract everybody, seeing what she looks like in these outfits, and what a bad script this was. And then the problem with George Lucas, he always writes lousy. He ends up writing lousy dialogue, and throughout the whole Star Wars saga, in which he has written lousy dialogue. And of course, people picked on, especially the scene where the children are alone, or Anakin and Padme are alone, and he expresses his love for her, and she says, "Look, we can't, we can't fall in love with each other because you're going to be kicked out, from the Jedi Order. I might be kicked out as a Senate because there's a conflict between the Senate and the Jedi. You don't want to be, there's this anti-Jedi bias is going on. We might be able to do that. I might be kicked out of the Senate. You might be kicked out of the Jedi if we, whoever discover. So let's not go down that street." I said, okay, let's back up. Okay, and Anakin says, "Okay, I understand, you're right." And then throughout the movie, he gets these dreams about his mother possibly being hurt or injured or dying. So then they go back home or Anakin goes home to Tatooine with Padme. And I found out that the mother was taken by the Sand People, or Tusken Raiders. And I found out that she was alive for about 5 seconds. Because Anakin goes to where the Tusken Raiders were, and he frees her. But he dies in her arms, but she ends up dying in her arms anyway, and then he ends up killing, all the Raiders in his camp. And then you start seeing a little bit more. He's progressing into Darth Vader, changing over to the dark side, and Yoda, which now, of course, in this film and in episode 1, this is CGI Yoda. And this is, of course, another one of the complaints. And of course, they got the message of trying to go and save Obi-Wan, who was trailing Jango Fett. Because during the course of Obi-Wan's investigation, he does find out that the bounty hunter has this deal with Kamino. who it went to cloning. So it goes to the planet and finds out that they are making clone army for the Republic, which because Obi-Wan asked Yoda and Mace Windu, who was played by Samuel L. Jackson, did the council ever order that you didn't make this order? And he said, no, whoever made it didn't have the authority to do it. They didn't have our authority to do it. And it says, bring Jango Fett to us. And that's because he had the big fight scene with Jango. And he had an unaltered clone, which happened to be Boba Fett. The infamous Boba Fett that we know from the other movies, the original trilogy. And it is Jango Fett's son. That's who we know what he's going to look like, even though he had the helmet on. And then Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, we know what it's going to look like. It's going to look exactly like his father. So the mystery for the Boba Fett was answered in episode 2. So of course they go to Obi-Wan follows him to Geonosis, and then he sends a message to Anakin. Look, we're over here at Geonosis, there's stuff going on here. I need help. So of course he goes in to rescue her, rescues him. When Anakin goes in to rescue Obi-Wan, gets captured. And of course the Jedi goes over there, saves his rear man, and Yoda went to pick up, which you didn't see, that Yoda picks up the clone army, and they of course destroyed the Clone War. They had the whole big fight, and of course you see during this fight was execution. Because the Notions were going to execute Padme, Obi-Wan, and Anakin, and during the execution scene before they get bailed out by Yoda and the rest of the Jedi, you see Natalie Portman's outfit is ripped here, so you see her midriff throughout pretty much the rest of the movie. They're trying to titillate the audience, like they did in Return of the Jedi with Carrie Fisher in the Slave Girl outfit. That's what I think they're trying to do here, trying to titillate the audience. And of course they had the big long sequence with the Star of the Clone Wars. And of course you had the infamous lightsaber battle between Yoda and Count Dooku, who was played by the horror movie legend Christopher Lee. And you had digital Yoda and this is digital Christopher Lee, because he was too old. I don't know how old Christopher Lee is, but he was like too old to do the lightsaber battle. So you had the digital Yoda jumping all around it. And when I went to see this movie, everybody was laughing about it. I hope we kick out seeing that particular sequence, because we never really saw Yoda fight. So just want to throw that scene in there to show people that Yoda can fight. And that's what that stole the movie. That really stole the movie for me, was to see Yoda fighting. So of course the scene is, of course, the Jedi won the first battle, but then because Yoda says now the Clone War has begun, and of course that leads into the next movie. But the very final scene is when Anakin and Padme get married at the end of the movie. And you see Natalie Portman in this beautiful wedding dress. And, I mean, it was really over the top wardrobe that they did for Natalie Portman in this movie. And she even said in one of the documentaries on the DVD, they really trained the sexed up version of Padme in this film. So that's my review of episode 2. Like I said, the most criticized one out of the bunch. I mean, I don't think it's all that bad, except Hayden Christensen acts like a whiny little brat, and that's how it's even more over the top in the next one, which I'm going to do next. So thank you for watching the video. Please like it, comment on it, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.